Hi guys, it's Hannah again. So this is going to be part 2 of my story and how I became atheist. And so I really got into a rant in part 1, and so it actually cut me off at like 26 minutes. So now I'm filming it on my phone, filming part 2 on my phone, because I was just like really into it. I was really into telling it. So while that's processing on my iPad, I'm filming the second part on my iPhone. So bear with me. I don't know what I'm doing with technology. Okay, so I was kind of like going into detail about like religious trauma and what happened to me, and like I started studying psychology in high school, starting to piece together the fact that I don't agree with the things that were taught in the Bible, and starting to recognize like these horrible ideas being propagated by the Bible. And then, I still like tried to find a new church home. I went to several different churches in my area. Let me make sure this microphone's working. I went to several different churches in my area, and I tried as best I could with a psychologically damaged self who was so socially scared of people. I tried my best to make friends and like develop a support network. But what I found was that people were very exclusionary, snobby, fake. They put on airs, judgy. There were a lot of cliques in the church. And so I found it incredibly difficult to make any friends at all at any of the churches. It was like kind of all the same at every single church that I went to, no matter what. And I really put in a lot of effort for like 4 or 5 years to overcome this and create connections and create a friend group. So I'm not just making excuses and judging people. This was really the experience that I had. This was really how people were acting. And it didn't matter which church I went to. Baptist, non-denominational, Catholic, Presbyterian, Methodist, where else did I go? Others, I can't even remember. I went to so many different churches, and I noticed that like people were the same. People acted in this very snobby, exclusionistic, cliquish kind of way, like keeping me at arm's distance. And yet they still wanted me to tithe money to them. They still expected me to volunteer and serve in their ministries, and I did for a while. I actually got involved in a women's prison ministry when I was 22, 23-ish, and I was also studying psychology at the time. And I got married in the middle of that. So my life was like very crazy at the time. And fun fact, my parents moved away when I was 19, and I was forced to live with a Christian family that were also snobby and just strange. I could not form relationships with them. So I lived with them for 2 years, and then I basically begged my husband to marry me because I was so unhappy living there. So we ended up getting married when I was 21, and I finished my psychology degree when I was 21. Anyway, and then I started my master's degree in counseling right after that. But when I was like in that time frame, like 21 to 22 or 23, I was also volunteering with a women's ministry, women's prison ministry. And it was actually very eye-opening for me in a very sad way. My job was to go to these like Bible study groups and talk to women about basically indoctrinating them into these women who are in jail. We were there to like proselytize to them essentially, and that was supposed to somehow save them from their sins and help them turn from their ways and create a new life. And I realized that, like, during the process of being involved in that group, first of all, the leaders were so disconnected from the experiences of these women who were in jail. There was no discussion of how trauma affects people and how trauma leads to, this cycle of, like, using drugs and, re-traumatizing, re-perpetuating, the trauma that you've experienced onto children, which leads to you going to jail, and how to get out of that cycle, how to get away from abusers. There was none of that. It was simply like, turn or burn, accept Jesus. Everything will be good in your life. Go to church and it'll solve it all. And so there was that piece. And then there was also, like, I was supposed to spiritually mentor one-on-one with I think it was like 3 to 5 different women. And when I sat and talked to them, they shared more about their stories. They shared more about their, like, the traumatic experiences that they've been through. And my job as the mentor was to, like, give them Bible verses to read and help them learn how to pray and use God to cope with what they were going through, and also to connect them with different ministries as when they get out of prison. And what I found was that all of the stuff that I was supposed to be doing was so unhelpful, and yet these women, I think because maybe they were getting some kind of, like, emotional support or something out of attending this program, they would actually kind of just lie to me and tell me that this stuff is helpful, and tell me that they were, like, reading and praying and, signing up for the ministry programs, and, like, planning to go to like Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous when they get out. And what I found was, and they were supposed to continue, seeing me as a mentor after they got out, to make sure that they have their needs met and that, they get connected with a church and stuff. And what I found was that after they got out, they completely, like, dissociated from me. They completely, like, didn't answer their phones. Often their phones would get shut off if they had one to begin with. They wouldn't attend the programs that they said they were going to sign up for. And to me, it was just like, wait, I thought this stuff was supposed to help you. I thought you were looking forward to getting involved in that. And no. So I just started to wonder, am I even helping these people, or am I just, like, fooling myself? Am I wasting my time, proselytizing to these traumatized people and doing something that's not helpful at all and potentially harming them even more? And so I had to leave the ministry. I just couldn't deal with the cognitive dissonance. I couldn't deal with, like, this cycle that I was seeing. Something was wrong there. And the ministers and stuff, they seem like they acknowledge that, yeah, sometimes people don't stay in contact, sometimes they don't follow through on stuff, but we do this anyway. And to me, it just seemed like something was broken and needed to be fixed. So all of that to say, that was one of the main things, other than, like, my personal experience with religion not helping, that was one of the main things that caused me to realize that I don't think this actually helps people. I don't think that Christianity, religion, the Bible, all this stuff that's supposed to help you, like, get through life and stuff, it just doesn't seem to work. So now I want to talk about like when I decided to leave. So after I quit the women's prison ministry, I was studying counseling psychology towards my master's degree, and I became kind of immersed in online atheism, the atheist experience. I watched like all of their videos. Seth Andrews, the Thinking Atheist,